Hello and welcome to a very special cover story conversation. I have with me one of my favorite guests, Dr. Sanjaya Baru. He's a former editor, he's been the former media advisor to Dr. Manmohan Singh, an author. In fact, he's looked at the trajectory of two prime ministers, the accidental prime minister with Dr. Manmohan Singh and a book on Narasimha Rao also.
1991.
1991, the reforms period. So good to have you here. But today,
That's it.
Dr. Baru, I'm calling you here because you are one person who's consistently also been watching Mamta Banerjee. In fact, you had said that she has she could give Prime Minister Modi a good fight if she was the face of the India alliance. And you've been, looking at her trajectory for a while now. So now, how do you see her placed?
Well, I mean, this is the ultimate test for Mamata Banerjee. If she comes back to power in Bengal, she will be the number one star of the opposition. Though you have someone like Stalin in Tamil Nadu, but Stalin has his limitations, not very articulate either in English or in Hindi. There is no other leader. I mean, the Congress party you've got in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, but I mean Telangana. But those guys within the Congress are unlikely to emerge on their own. After all, Congress is dominated by the family: Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi. So therefore, if Mamata Banerjee wins in Bengal, she will be, without question, the tallest opposition leader in the country.
But how do you see it happening? In terms of, because she did try to also venture out of Bengal earlier and didn't really get much success. I think she tried to fight elections in Assam and UP. That didn't work. So what will work now?
No, I don't think TMC can become an all India party. I think what
Acha.
will have to happen is for the India Alliance to accept her as the president.
Like a Devi Gowda Gujral kind of a situation.
That she will have to be. See, I'll tell you, her real strength, which is why I've always been in some ways enamored and impressed by her. She has two strengths. One, she is the truly homegrown grassroots politician in India today. She did not have an organization at her disposal like every BJP person has, like RSS, BJP, whether it's Vajpayee or Modi, all of them have a huge organization, right? She does not have family like the Gandhis or Stalin or, Jagan Reddy or Chandrababu Naidu, none of them have. The last time a politician came from the grassroots, really emerged as a powerful politician was N.T. Ramarao in Andhra Pradesh.
Right.
But then he was a film star. So if you look around, Mamta came from nowhere. She was just one more Congress party leader. She walked out, formed her own party, fought the CPM, which was an extremely powerful political party in Bengal, with cadre, entrenched for 30 years, right?
Huh.
And she comes and takes over. It's a fantastic. And finally, as I've said before in our discussion, she's the only woman leader. I mean, when I was looking at this whole debate in Parliament on women's reservation, it was such a farce and such a joke that every single party, from the BJP to the Congress to the Communists to the DMK to the Telugu Desam to Jagan to every single political party in this country, do not have women leaders. Narendra Modi, who talks so much about women, removed Sushma Swaraj, did not allow Vasundhara Raje Scindia to come to Delhi. I mean, who are the women politicians in the Modi government for the last 11 years? Nirmala Sitharaman, who can't get elected from Tamil Nadu, Rajya Sabha. So, where are the women in the Modi cabinet? Where are the women in the Congress apart from Priyanka and Sonia?
Correct.
There was a time when there was Sheila Dikshit, I have a lovely story about Sheila, which I'll come to later. But the point is, none of the political parties, the communists, never had a woman leader in Bengal. In Kerala, there was that health minister who was doing excellent work during COVID, and Pinarayi removed her. There are no women leaders in Kerala. The only woman in the Politburo is Brinda Karat, wife of Prakash Karat. So actually, if you look at the entire Indian political spectrum, Mamta stands out as the only woman leader. And all these fellows who talk about women's reservation, I mean, what have they done to give representation for women in their own party?
Good question. Okay, so on that, before we go further, I want to, you threw a very nice carrot over there. That story about Sheila Dikshit, I'm wondering if you will share it with us today.
Sheila Dikshit was the one popular woman leader in the Congress party. She had 2 terms in Delhi as chief minister, and she was generally admired for all the infrastructure development in Delhi, etc., and the Commonwealth Games. So one day I met Sheila ji and said to her, I said, look, you've been chief minister long enough, you should be in the union government. So she said, of course, I agree with you. Go tell the prime minister. So this was after I had left PMO. This was
Acha.
during Manmohan Singh's second term. So I said, okay, if you permit me, I'll go and tell him. So bolo. Then I kind of said to her, you would make a very good foreign minister. Because she's a very elegant lady. I said, you will make a very good foreign minister. She looked at me and said, why? Why can't I be home minister? Why can't I be finance minister? So I said, yes, Sheila ji, of course you can be either home minister. Of course I can be home or finance. So then I went, met Manmohan Singh and told him this conversation. He had a, poker face, no expression, no smile, nothing. Listen to me. But that's a fact that even in the Congress, like Sushma Swaraj was removed from external affairs by Modi, Sheila Dikshit was never brought to the national government, the union government.
Or even when they were looking for a woman president, Sheila Dikshit would have been such a better choice than
that lady from
Pratibha
Maharashtra.
Patil.
Another thing I'll tell you.
Was that around your time when you were there?
I was in the
then
PMO.
you know the story. Tell me the story.
And I haven't said this before. When you get elected as president, you have to give an acceptance speech. Normally, acceptance speech is the first speech you give once elected, which every person, every president, says something. I was asked to write an acceptance speech.
Wow.
So I said to Dr. Manmohan Singh, I said, sir, what do I say? He said, you write whatever you think she should say.
Really?
Yes. I wrote her acceptance speech.
So much for that. No, in fact, another union minister from the UPA days was just recently telling me this story about Pratibha Patil. She said after she became president, the protocol is the president walks ahead and everybody else walks behind them. She's saying, but her husband insisted on walking ahead of her. So she's saying that's unfortunately the state, that's the mindset we are battling at so many levels. But, to get back to the women leaders before I go on to, it's a very interesting point because even as a regional leader, she didn't have Sharad Pawar's clout and money backing. So is Mamta seen more as a woman leader or as a leader, or can we differentiate between the two? Because I was asking because there's this women reservations bogey that Modi has raised. Will that work against the BJP?
I don't see that. I think you use the right word, bogey. For this government in the 11th year to suddenly come up with this idea, to have a special session and to have all these women around the Prime Minister getting photographed and all these rallies. The whole thing looks like such a facade.
Correct.
And you ask the question, why did they do this drama? So there are two theories, right? One theory is that to offer a cover for delimitation, which is what Stalin and many South Indian leaders have said, that you're actually trying to bring in delimitation using women. And the other is that, the image of Mamta as a woman in Bengal, project women. But how many women are there in the BJP in Bengal? How many women have been given ticket? We know that Mamta Banerjee has a large number of women. And she has a large number of very powerful women. Mahua Moitra, one of the most articulate members of parliament.
Correct.
So Bengal has shown that there's a role for women in politics, right? And I think Mamta has the capacity to emerge at a national level. She needs a little bit of training in her Hindi and the kind of issues she will focus on. I assume she has enough number of advisors to help her. She now has Sagarika, she has Menaka Guruswamy, a lot of talented women around her. So hopefully they will all be giving her the right
And Prashant
advice.
Kishore has been kept away, which is also kept in this thing. But Mamta Banerjee's, politics, people are saying that she's still, part of her charm is also that she's both the leader and the opposition. She's...
You've been in Bengal?
In Bengal.
Yeah. Well, because the opposition...
Taking on the central government?
Yeah, the opposition in Bengal has been weak. The CPM has been decimated. They claim that in this election they'll do well. the Congress has not made an impact. The BJP is there, but BJP does not have leaders capable of actually taking her on. And it's a good question. Is she both a person of government and a person of the opposition in terms of a personality? Well, I think you need to be a bit of both if you're aspiring to move from the state. I mean, look at Narendra Modi.
Yeah.
When he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. I remember even in the UPA one when I was in PMO, every meeting of the National Development Council or the Chief Ministers, Mr. Modi would come from Gujarat, and once the Prime Minister has spoken and the coffee break or whatever, he would have a press conference outside in Vigyan Bhavan, attacking Prime Minister. So he used every National Development Council meeting, State Chief Ministers Conference to come to Delhi and attack the Prime Minister. And in fact, once he even said to me, before the meeting started, Prime Minister had not yet arrived. So I was walking around saying hello to a lot of people in Vigyan Bhavan. So he looked at me, smiled and said, "Aaj tumko bahut kaam dunga main."
Acha.
So, I had to be prepared that he
will
would go.
launch
So
an
I had
attack.
to counter whatever he was saying.
So Mamta is doing a lot like what Modi did. Is that as a CM?
So you have to be a bit of an opposition leader till you become a national figure.
Which is what Mamta is.
Which is what Mamta is.
On the case of. No, because in terms of acceptance in the India bloc, we've seen that there is a sort of grouping. There is Akhilesh Yadav who's supporting her. Stalin will probably support her also. Main hurdle is the Congress.
You see, the Congress has to come to terms with the fact that on its own, it's never going to be back in power. It'll have to be in a coalition. Now, their ambition is that, like the UPA coalition, you would have a Congress Prime Minister. That was 2004 was a different context. And Manmohan Singh was a different context.
Yeah.
He had that personality, a former finance minister, former leader of the opposition, Rajya Sabha, former governor of the Reserve Bank, former deputy chairman of the Planning Commission, former secretary general of the South Commission. So he had a certain personality which made him a natural choice, which is what I wrote even before he became Prime Minister. If you remember, I wrote a column in the Times of India saying he's a natural choice. He has, in a sense, he had in 2004 more credentials than even Pranab Mukherjee or Arjun Singh or anyone. But you can't say the same thing for Rahul. He does not have as yet what I would call prime ministerial credentials. And therefore, he is not a natural candidate for prime ministership of a second UPA or a third UPA government. Where do you then look for a leader? And I think that is where I think Mamta is. In many ways, if she wins this election in Bengal, will establish her credentials.
To be the...
Yeah.
But the Congress is not going to let go easily. They will...
They'll have to show wisdom. They'll have to show wisdom.
The chemistry between, if there was Sonia, I would still say, but Rahul and Mamta, there is just no understanding, no chemistry.
Yeah, but I think, at the end of the day, the Congress has to come to terms with the fact that Rahul Gandhi is a very capable leader, but not ready.
Still,
despite Bharat Jodo Yatra and all that, he is not Prime Minister material as yet. He has not established his credentials. You have to come to terms with reality. In any democracy, people get chances, but if the chances don't work out, you have to look elsewhere. And of course, if the entire opposition wants Mr. Modi to continue forever, then they can all fight among themselves. But if they actually want to offer an alternative to this current government, then you take a serious, what they call SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You do a SWOT analysis. The person who comes up, in my judgment, is Mamata Banerjee.
And that is something you've been consistently saying
for 10 years now.
For 10 years now.
Yeah.
So
Actually, no, more. Because I remember my first column I wrote in the Economic Times was when she came back to power in Bengal. That is her second term, the beginning of her second term. I forget which year that was.
So that's
but at the beginning,
10 years ago. This is third term finishing, yeah. So.
Yeah, at the beginning of her second term, I wrote a column saying that at that time, she was unexpected. The second term was unexpected. And said that you have to take her seriously. And I think now we have come to a stage where we have to take it seriously.
Okay, I'm going to take a break and I want to ask you one question. A lot of people had compared Mamta Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal. So, what has she done right that he has done wrong? But after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation with Dr. Sanjaya Baru. We were discussing Mamta Banerjee's politics, and before the break, I asked you, the comparison between Mamta Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal. What did she get right?
See, Arvind Kejriwal pretended that the mayor of Delhi is equivalent to any chief minister in the country. After all, what is chief
But his
minister of
win
Delhi?
was, in terms of optics, a grand win.
Yeah, but in Delhi. And because all of us are in Delhi, the media is in Delhi, you got projection, national projection. But at the end of the day, what is the chief minister of Delhi? He does not even control the police in Delhi. Right? It's a highly atrophied kind of political position. He made good use of that opportunity by focusing on education, health, whatever was in his control, and did a good job. But first of all, he had not really the kind of experience needed to deal with the country as big as India. You know, India, at the end of the day, 1.4 billion, unless you have been chief minister of a large state, you don't acquire the day-to-day experience of dealing with a complex country. And I think that experience Arvind did not have. Second, I think the big mistake he made was of imagining that he would be the leader of this united opposition without having the ability to reach out to this. After all, Aam Aadmi Party could not have been a single opposition party, right? They could not have formed an alternate government. They would have had to work with the opposition. His relationship with other political parties was not very good. He couldn't construct an equation, let's say, with a Sharad Pawar or a Stalin or in those days even Karunanidhi or
And even Akhilesh Yadav was unhappy because he
Akhilesh,
decided to contest.
So he didn't have those skills.
Yeah.
So I think Mamta has learnt a lot. I think Mamta certainly has.
Maturity of.
Yeah, she has certainly learned from the mistake she made of going to Goa and trying to take TMC to other states. I think that was ill-advised. And she looks like she has learned that lesson.
There is a certain maturity in her, and especially in the way she's been countering though of course, barging into the courtroom. She still has the theatre with her, which people love.
But people love that. And frankly, I think that is what you need in the opposition. I mean, the only person in the Congress party who has the ability to capture public attention is Priyanka. It's not really Rahul. I mean, when you start listening to Rahul Gandhi in parliament, after a little while, you say, okay, what is he trying to say? Priyanka is far more focused, I think there's something about women that they tend to be more focused than men.
Or they can multitask better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So speaking, but to get back, you women, you reminded me again. I want to bring you back to this whole to the Prime Minister's politics. We discussed a bit about why he brought in the women's bill, why he could have. But do you see is the BJP is it the U-turn beginning, or do you think they are still in a strong position? Calling this debate in Parliament and losing it, which I'm sure they knew they'd lose, or did they expect to win? What do you make out from this whole and that address to the nation after that?
Well, address to the nation was a damn squib.
It did not have the grandeur of the others.
It didn't make any impact at all. But that apart, I have been arguing that 2024, 240 seats was a real turning point.
That was a turning point.
The media in Delhi and a lot of analysts, etc., suddenly changed the debate just because of Chandrababu Naidu and the Andhra parties being under control and Nitish in Bihar being under control, that, this is back in the game. They're not back in the game, right? Second, if you look at the choice of chief ministers across the country, you have a completely lackluster regional leadership. I mean, where was Vasundhara Raje Scindia in Rajasthan? And where is this chap? I can't even remember his name, right? So you have all these lackluster people at the state level. So therefore, obviously the strategy is to continue to focus on the Prime Minister. Now, going forward, we are going to live through probably the most difficult years in the recent past, the next 2 years.
Economically.
With the war in the Gulf, and the way in which internationally we are getting pressured, next year is going to be very, very difficult. How we will manage to come out of that and how BJP manages to retain its level of support and improve from 240 is the big question. Now, there are people who say, no, they'll go from 240 to 300. I don't see the arithmetic. How? I don't see the arithmetic happening. So if you don't go from 240 to 300, on the other hand, if you go from 240 to 220, the game changes. You know. So I think 2029, as I've always argued, is up for grabs.
In the eve.
Is up for grabs.
But you were one of the first few, I remember doing an interview with you and you said the BJP has lost the election. And I remember that narrative.
Exactly.
You were calling them out. You were the very few who did that. But, up to 29, there are going to be a whole lot of state elections also. And, they build the narrative. Even if the opposition does well in this round. UP, I think Yogi does stand a chance of retaining. And that's a big state.
Yeah.
Then we'll, of course, have Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, which could turn also.
Yeah.
But if the BJP retains all these Hindi heartland states, do you still think that 29 is up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the scenarios would be in each of these. But if Yogi comes back to power in UP, that will be a challenge for the Prime Minister.
In its own way.
After all, if you believe the gossip in Delhi, already the competition has started between Amit Shah and Yogi. That's the gossip I keep hearing.
But that's a level below the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is safe.
No, he's safe, but level. So though that will affect ticket distribution, who will get, who will be in charge of UP.
Like what happened apparently in the last Lok Sabha.
Yeah, exactly.
Why they did badly in UP. You're right.
So all those things is difficult to predict. I don't want to predict. All I'm saying is that I think 2029 is up for grabs. If the BJP comes back, it may come back. I'm not saying they will not come back. But it is certainly up for grabs. And it all depends on the India alliance, how it makes use of this opportunity.
But in terms of conversation and social media or whatever, are you seeing that early on you could not say a thing against the Prime Minister, or you could not even say that, the address to the nation, was it, be critical of it. But now I'm seeing people are being critical of it, and off record BJP leaders are shaking their heads also.
No, I think that's a change. I'm glad you made that point. That is certainly a change. I see greater willingness on the part of people who were earlier doing self-censorship to speak up. I see a lot of internal tensions and rivalries. I mean, even within the Council of Ministers, we hear that X cannot get along with Y cannot get along with Z, and all these. What happens in any normal political party, which was earlier, I think, either suppressed or did not manifest itself. Now we keep hearing all of this, right? Even the fact that you hear all of this is a change.
Correct.
That there are all these jockeying for position, power, influence. And a lot of people have got exposed. I mean, Hardeep Puri, for example, has got exposed. So, in a sense, they become defensive, right? Even Jaishankar, for that matter, has got exposed with the situation in the Gulf. And of course, as I said, the economy is in such a state that Nirmala Sitharaman's capabilities will come into question. So, when things go wrong and the reputation of ministers comes into question, at some point, all of that will affect the reputation of the Prime Minister. I mean, right now, people will only blame individual ministers, right? Why is this happening in this ministry, that ministry, etc.
But the control is, it's...
Yeah. So, at some point, it will affect the image of the man at the top.
But I thought the Hardeep Puri issue, I thought had, in terms of the way he'd handled it, or Hemanta, the way they've handled it, they are brazening it out. They're not...
yeah, that's because they have the numbers.
Combatively fighting it.
Yeah, they have the numbers, they can brazen it out. And, in a country where people are worried about employment, quality of life, day-to-day issues, somebody has had some, issue in the past. These are all not serious mass political issues.
Drawing room issues.
They are drawing room issues.
But Hemanta, how do you see him? And could he emerge as a potential challenger because he's also been left on his own in Assam, really. He did the firefighting himself. He's also winning the state on his own strength.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I'm saying you'll have a lot of number twos emerging. whether it's Yogi or Hemanta or Amit Shah or others who are not yet kind of manifested themselves. So all of that jockeying will begin.
Now, when they see that there is, a slight. And Gadkari and all, you think they are now
I think so. I think in
Rajnath, Gadkari?
Maharashtra now, Mr. Fadnavis is probably well and truly in charge.
Oh yes, let's not forget him. He has done very
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
Correct.
He's there.
That's a good name to be.
And he's Fadnavis after all. The name itself matters.
But do you think Modi has learned his lesson, or not lesson, but learned, something? Because you talked about weak chief ministers. But for instance, the choice of Samrat Chaudhary in Bihar, people were speculating that ek aur rubber stamp aayega. But he put someone who has somewhat of a hold on the state. Perhaps he's realizing Devendra Fadnavis. He could. So he is trying to bring in strong CMs.
Yes, I mean, the mix of good and bad. I mean, if you look at the quality of the chief ministers, it's a mix of good and bad. And of course, in the case of Fadnavis, from whatever I know, Delhi had no option but to accept him. He put his foot down.
He put his foot down,
Yeah,
as Hemanta did earlier.
So therefore, Mr. Fadnavis is there in a way of his own right. It's not Delhi appointing him, but he has the base. That's why I said he's someone to also watch out for. But I think at the end of the day, Mr. Modi is a practical politician. He's and you have to say, practical politicians learn from their mistakes. So one should not rule out the fact that even he is learning from his mistakes.
Yeah, which is to his credit in that
Which is
sense.
to his credit.
And I mean, I know you and I are going to have a discussion on foreign policy later, but just since I have you here, on Iran, do you think, we've learned from our mistake and we've done we've mended fences,
I think so. I think it was a big mistake for, see, first of all, it was, in my judgment, wrong for the Prime Minister to have gone to Israel at that point in time, when it was very clear that things were very unstable. But having gone and come back, I think for the 5 days, the government did not know how to respond. Those are 5 critical days. And that is when we lost our kind of esteem and status. India became irrelevant.
Right.
Suddenly, Pakistan walked into that vacuum. And they are now sitting there pretty. Whether they finally succeed or not, the fact is they are back in the game in a way which none of us expected even 1 year back.
But I agree. But isn't Pakistan just a vassal state of the US? They are there because, they will move according to wherever Trump wants them to move.
Vassal state of the US, right now we are behaving like that. When is the last time the government of India put its foot down? I mean, you had President Trump saying India is a hellhole like China, and the foreign ministry spokesperson gives some vague, weak-kneed reply. What is this? So I think I am not, honestly, I'm not at all pleased with the manner in which we are handling the rest
And now
of
you're being very diplomatic. But on that note, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
And we hope to get you back for more. But for now, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the Newsx YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.